When I found out she cheated, I didn't leave. That's the part people don't understand. They think the pain comes from betrayal. It doesn't. The real pain comes from what you choose to do after. She told me the truth one evening, sitting across from me like she was confessing to something small. She didn't cry at first. She just said it, like it was a fact that needed to be addressed. "I made a mistake," she said. I remember staring at her hands while she spoke. They were steady, calm, like she had already rehearsed this moment in her head. I felt numb, not angry, not broken, just empty. I asked the obvious questions. Who, how long, why? She answered carefully, like she was afraid the wrong word would push me away. She said it didn't mean anything. She said it was over. She said she loved me. I wanted to believe her. More than that, I needed to, because believing her meant my life didn't have to fall apart. People talk about forgiveness like it's strength, like it's the higher road, like it makes you better than the pain. So I forgave her, not because I was strong, because I was scared. We talked for hours that night. She cried eventually, apologized, promised transparency, promised effort, promised she would never hurt me like that again. I listened. I nodded. I held her while she cried. That moment still confuses me. I told myself relationships survive worse. I told myself everyone makes mistakes. I told myself love is about choosing someone even when it's hard. Those thoughts sounded mature. They felt responsible. They were also lies I needed to hear. For a while, things seemed better. She was more attentive, more affectionate, more present. She checked in constantly, asked how I was feeling, asked you if I trusted her. I said yes, even when I wasn't sure. Trust after betrayal is strange. It doesn't disappear. It becomes work. Every text message requires effort to ignore. Every late arrival needs a mental explanation. Every silence becomes louder than it should be. She told me I had to let it go. That if I forgave her, I had to really forgive her. She said we couldn't move forward if I kept looking back. She was right. But forgiveness doesn't come on command. I didn't want to become someone suspicious. I didn't want to check her phone. I didn't want to count minutes. So I didn't. I forced myself to relax, to trust, to act normal. That effort exhausted me. There were moments when things felt almost real again. We laughed. We planned small trips. We talked about the future like it hadn't cracked. Those moments kept me there. They gave me hope. But something had changed. And I felt it every day. Not in her, in me. I noticed how I watched her instead of listening. How my body tensed when her phone vibrated. How I memorized her schedule without meaning to. That wasn't love. That was surveillance. She noticed too. She started getting irritated. Said I was distant. Said I didn't look at her the same way. She asked me why I couldn't just move on. That question hurt more than the cheating. I wanted to scream that I was trying. That forgiving someone doesn't erase what happened. That trust doesn't regenerate overnight. But I didn't say that. I apologized. Again. Over time, the roles shifted. She became impatient with my healing. I became grateful for her staying. That imbalance grew quietly, dangerously. One night, months later, she said something that stayed with me. I thought forgiving me would make things normal again. Normal. That word felt cruel, because nothing about us was normal anymore. I realized then that forgiveness hadn't saved us. It had delayed something inevitable. I didn't know it yet. But staying after she cheated didn't make me strong. It made me smaller. And I was only beginning to understand the cost after I forgave her. Life didn't return to normal. It slowed down, like something broken that still moves, but not the way it should. At first, I told myself that was healing. Now I know it was decay. She wanted us to move forward. I wanted us to be honest. Those two things are not the same. Whenever I tried to talk about how I felt, she grew tired. Not angry, tired. Like my pain was an inconvenience she thought forgiveness had already covered. I said I was sorry. She would say, I told you the truth. I thought we were past this. Like betrayal is a checkpoint you cross once and never revisit. I started noticing changes in how she spoke to me. Less patience, less softness, more defensiveness. She didn't like when I asked questions anymore. Questions made her feel judged, so I stopped asking. That silence didn't bring peace. It brought distance. She became more protective of her phone. Not dramatically, just enough. Enough to notice if you were already paying attention. She took calls in other rooms, muted notifications, locked the screen quickly. I told myself I was imagining things, because imagining things was better than facing reality again. One night, I woke up and realized she wasn't in bed. The house was quiet, too quiet. I found her in the living room, sitting on the couch, phone glowing in the dark. She looked up quickly when she saw me, smiled. Too fast. Couldn't sleep, she said. I nodded. Went back to bed. My heart stayed awake. I hated myself for what I did next. But curiosity after betrayal isn't curiosity. It's self-defense. I checked her phone the next day. I didn't find what I expected. No explicit messages. No photos. No confessions. What I found was worse. Familiarity. Inside jokes. Emotional intimacy. Conversations that failed. Ongoing. Alive. The same name. The same person. The affair she said was over. They didn't talk like people who had ended something. They talked like people who had learned how to hide it better. I confronted her calmly. Not accusing. Not yelling. I showed her the messages. She stared at the screen for a long time. Did it deny it? Did it panic? Just sighed. I told you nothing was happening, she said. And you're still talking to him? I replied. That doesn't mean anything. That sentence felt rehearsed. She said they were just friends now. That she couldn't just erase someone from her life. That I was overreacting. That I was undoing everything we had worked for. Suddenly, I was the problem. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. My inability to let go. She told me forgiveness means trust. I told her trust requires consistency. She said I was controlling. I said I was hurt. She rolled her eyes. That gesture hurt more than the messages. From that moment on, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Clarity. I realized forgiveness had given her comfort, not accountability. She felt absolved, free, and I felt responsible for keeping the peace. Our arguments changed. They weren't about the affair anymore. They were about my reactions, my tone, my timing, my inability to heal fast enough. I started doubting myself, wondering if I was being unfair, if I was holding on to the past, if my pain was excessive. That doubt weakened me. One evening, she said something that broke the illusion completely. If you can't move on, maybe forgiving me was a mistake. She said it casually, like an observation. That was when I understood. Forgiveness had shifted the power. She wasn't afraid of losing me anymore. She knew I would stay. I stopped checking her phone after that. Not because I trusted her, because I didn't want to confirm what I already knew. We lived together like roommates. Polite, careful, disconnected. Intimacy felt forced. Conversations felt shallow. Every I love you sounded like a habit. I realized something terrifying. I wasn't staying because I loved her. I was staying because leaving meant admitting forgiveness hadn't worked. One night, lying next to her, I felt lonelier than I had ever felt alone. That's when I knew. This wasn't healing. This was erosion. Forgiving her hadn't saved the relationship. It had taught her that consequences were temporary, and taught me that my boundaries were negotiable. I didn't leave that night, but I stopped lying to myself. And once that happens, the end is already in motion. I didn't leave the moment I realized forgiveness had failed. I stayed longer than I should have, because once you forgive someone who hurt you, leaving feels like admitting you were wrong twice. Things didn't explode. They faded. Days passed without arguments, but also without warmth. We spoke politely. We planned nothing. We avoided anything that required honesty. She acted relieved. I acted exhausted. I stopped asking questions, not because I trusted her, because I didn't want to hear answers anymore. When trust dies, curiosity becomes dangerous. She noticed the change in me, asked why I was so distant, said she missed how we used to talk. I almost laughed, because talking was exactly what had destroyed us. One evening, she told me she felt like I had checked out. I told her I was still here. She said that wasn't the same. She was right. I realized something important then. Forgiveness hadn't healed me. It had taught me how to tolerate pain quietly. I started imagining my life without her. Not dramatically, practically. What mornings would feel like. What silence would sound like. Whether loneliness would hurt less than constant doubt. The answer came slowly, but it was clear. The final conversation happened on an ordinary night. No tears, no raised voices, just honesty. "I don't trust you," I said. She looked hurt, like she was surprised I would say it out loud. "I forgave you," I continued, "but I don't feel safe anymore." She said she tried. She said she changed. She said I never really let it go. All of those things might have been true. None of them fixed what was broken. I told her forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and love isn't the same as endurance. She asked if I was giving up. I said no. I said I was choosing myself. That sentence felt unfamiliar in my mouth, but also necessary. We separated quietly, divided things fairly, spoke respectfully. That kindness almost made it harder. After she left, the apartment felt empty, but the emptiness was honest. There were no questions hiding in corners, no phones lighting up at night, no rehearsed reassurances. I grieved, not just the relationship, but the version of myself who thought forgiveness alone could save love. People asked why I stayed so long, why I forgave her at all. I never had a simple answer, because forgiveness felt like maturity. It felt like strength. It felt like love. Now I understand something I didn't before. Forgiveness without accountability becomes permission. Forgiveness without change becomes self-betrayal. I don't regret forgiving her. I regret confusing forgiveness with staying. Healing didn't start until I left, until my body relaxed again, until silence stopped feeling threatening, until I trusted my own instincts again. I learned that boundaries matter more than intentions, that love requires safety, and that staying loyal to someone who keeps hurting you isn't noble. It's abandonment of yourself. I trust again now, slowly, carefully, with clearer limits. If you're listening to this and wondering whether to stay after betrayal, ask yourself one question. Does forgiveness bring peace, or does it only bring quiet? Quiet is not healing. Peace is. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away.